Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another little 80s entry here. But first, if you're new, welcome to my channel. I like to make these little videos about films that I enjoy and want to share, often horror or maybe some 80s throwbacks or films that I feel may be a little bit overlooked or forgotten. Though sometimes I do kind of shuffle in another one, such as a newer film like a few months back when I did ones like Oppenheimer and Barbie, for instance. I also try to keep things positive, and just speak about the ones that I enjoy rather than bashing the ones I hate. Because if I didn't like the movie, I don't want to spend any time making a video about it anyways. But there are cases where I might be going through an entire franchise or a boxed set, and there may be a title or two in there that I really don't have much positive to talk about. I also try to keep all these non-spoiler, but if there is a case where I want to go into a little bit more detail and not just that surface level kind of vanilla description, and I'm going to put some spoilers in and make sure to give some notice beforehand. And finally, if you like what you see, please consider subscribing and checking out my back catalog, as I have over 200 videos there now that I've been building up over the years. Okay, now that all that's out of the way, this past summer I revisited the Bill and Ted films, as well as Better Off Dead. And when I was posting about Better Off Dead on Instagram, I saw that Diane Franklin, who played one of the royal babes in Bill and Ted and played the French foreign exchange student in Better Off Dead, had also posted a little flashback picture from that film. I commented and mentioned that, I realized I hadn't really seen much of her work over the years, and if she somehow came across that comment, to go ahead and drop some suggestions of some of her work that she feels I should check out. And she actually did respond. She gave a list of 80s films such as The Last American Virgin, Summer Girl, Amityville 2, The Possession, Deadly Lessons, and Terror Vision, and some more current ones such as Walking Nightmares, Amityville Murders, High Holiday, The Final Interview, and Clay Zombies, as well as something called Prank Panels on ABC Family Matters. Now, I don't know if I will be able to make it to all of those, either due to just, time to fit it in, or even just availability to see where I can track some of them down. But seeing as I at least try to work in an 80s film every now and then to go along with some of the horror titles that I covered, I figured The Last American Virgin seemed like a great place to start because I actually hadn't seen it before. But what is this film about? Well, the synopsis is as follows. Pizza delivery boy Gary, loudmouth David, and hunky Rick are 3 high school students out to lose their virginity any way they can. Gary falls for transfer student Karen, who gets involved with Rick. So, here we have an 80s raunchy comedy, very sexually driven, the kind of like those sexual themes to go along with all that comedy. I'm speaking to some of the things that teenagers kind of go through in high school as their hormones are going berserk. Of course, it's amplified for the sake of comedy. Now, I hadn't watched a film along these lines in years. I would say that maybe the closest I'd come to is some rewatches I did for Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Valley Girl, which by comparison, of course, are nowhere near as raunchy or sexual, but they have that same kind of target audience. And we're both also from the 80s. Now, seeing as I was also pretty young when this film came out, I kind of missed it initially and somehow just never got around to it until this viewing. So now on that first viewing, I was watching this not as kind of part of that target audience, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit. First off, it's beautifully shot. The use of color and lighting, they really kind of leaned into all the fashion and the style of the 80s, and they put a really great soundtrack along with that, something which I feel like I've been missing in recent years. Except perhaps Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a few years back, they actually had a really good soundtrack for that. But this was a great one, lots of great hits in there. And as for the characters, they are all very likable, and I really root for them the entire time, even if I can't relate to their teenage desires, except as a distant memory. Even the character Rick, played by Steve Anton, who I knew mainly from the Goonies, he does take a little bit of a turn for the worse throughout the story, but for the most part, up until that point, he's very likable. And of course, Gary, our lead, played by Lawrence Monoson, who I mainly remember from Friday the 13th Part 4. All of them together, they're very easy to kind of focus on and connect with on this weird sexually driven journey of theirs. And as for Karen, the character played by Diane Franklin herself, she's just extremely gorgeous and sweet, and I immediately get our lead's attraction to her, both in her demeanor and her looks. And I was just really on board with this. All in all, though this is a very sexually driven story, though, there's still not only a lot of great comedy, just crazy situations that these characters get themselves into on this little journey of theirs. There's also a lot of heart beneath it, especially between Gary and Karen as we start to kind of move into that third act. There's a lot of growth happening by the time we kind of head into that portion of the film, so there is a little bit more than just the crazy sexually driven antics. But honestly, the ending. I'm not going to put in any spoilers here, but that was the only thing that I had a little bit of an issue with, and like I said, not to go into spoilers, but it just didn't land the way that I was personally wanting it to. That definitely makes it stand out from some of the other films of that time, I would think, and it's probably why maybe it's, seems to be relatively highly regarded considering the subject matter. I mean, according to IMDb anyways, but it wasn't quite what I wanted as the outcome for some of those characters. However, even with that ending being a little bit of a disappointment for me, just a tad, this is still a very funny, crazy kind of film, similar to ones along the lines like 20 years later with like American Pie, for example. So if you like that one, and you like some of the throwback films like Fast Times at Ridgemont High or Valley Girl, this is definitely one worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this latest little video of mine for an 80s throwback to 1982 for the film The Last American Virgin, starring Lawrence Monoson, Steve Anton, Joe Ruby, and of course Diane Franklin, who suggested it to me in the first place. At the time of this video, unfortunately, it's only available on DVD, if you can track that down. Maybe there's just something going on with the rights where it's kind of between streaming services, which is another reason why it's always great to build up a physical collection of films that you like to revisit over the years so you don't lose them in some streaming provider changing their mind about if they're going to make it available. Anyways, that's about all that I have for this little entry here. Thanks for coming by and sticking around to the end, as it really does help out quite a bit. Be sure to like, subscribe, or get some comments going here if you want to kind of get some conversation going. And like I said, be sure to check out my back catalog. I got a lot of stuff there, including some 80s throwbacks, which I'll put up some links to at the end, as well as some franchise reviews, especially some of the horror stuff, and a lot of classic horror stuff. Like I've been going through some old B movies from this Elvira set that I've been going through, and a couple years ago I went through an entire set of Hammer films. I think there's about 45 films that I covered in that, so a lot of content to check out. Once again, thanks for coming by, and I will see you in the next one.